And 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Yeah, definitely a struggle to get to this point. It was, so my parents are from Fiji, and they came here separately in about the 70s, right? They didn't meet until later on. So my mom, from Fiji, the thing is when you go, a lot of countries out in the world, public education is not K to 12, right? It's back then it was, I think, fourth grade, right? And so if you wanted to go beyond fourth grade, you had to pay. Right? They pay money. And so for a lot of families, especially farming families, you can't afford to send all your kids to school. So maybe you can afford to send one or none at all. But the first people, so back in that time, and I mean, you still see this today, the people who get the children get chosen to not go to school are usually daughters, right? And they're expected to pick up household duties with the goal of becoming a homemaker, which is a really tough job, but all at the same time very limiting, right? Obviously, right? Because just because they're your daughter doesn't mean they're any less capable, right? Or have any, or their goals are worth less, right? But unfortunately, that's just the way things are in a lot of parts of the world, right? So, that's what my mom had to go through as well. So, and then for my dad, I mean, he went to high school here. He worked in a bunch of labor jobs, right? He's always been naturally a more trades person, right? That's just what he loves to do. So anyways, when he met my mom and I was born, he really wanted to, be that great provider and to really create a future for us, for his family, right? And so he would work, and so he told my mom, because my mom had a bunch of issues in terms of her neck and back. She had a couple of really bad slip and falls, just a bunch of things that led to her having a lot of pain in her body, right? That she's had to deal with her whole life, even to this day. And so my dad said, you know what, stay at home with the kids, and then I'll find a way to make things work, right? And so for him, that involved going to different factories and trying to find work, right? Starting out, and he ended up finding a job at a cabinet shop, right? And that's when he really put in long hours to learn the trade, and he really excelled at cabinetry. He really excelled at woodworking, and people really noticed his talent and his passion for that, right? And at the same time, he was also working at a furniture company, both full-time jobs. So he would start his first job at 7 a.m. Shift ends at 3:30. So he would skip his lunch break, and then, sorry, just hard to talk about sometimes because he really struggled. But he would skip his lunch and then take the bus to his other job and work until midnight. And then sometimes if he missed the bus, he'd walk back home the whole way. And he did this for 10 years, right? So, and what's really sad is there's a one moment keeps coming back to my mind where he fell asleep on one day on the job on top of a saw and lost his finger. But based on how he fell, he could have easily died at that time. And I remember getting that call for us to go to the hospital. And my dad's there. He's missing his finger, and it was just there next to him in a jar. And he lost his finger. And I asked, like, what happened? And he's like, I'm just too exhausted. I fell asleep on the saw. And I mean, what do you do, right? You get there's WCB, which covers some things, and but it's not a whole lot. Right. So he had no choice but to wrap up his finger and get back to work. Right. So didn't even get a chance to really fully heal or recover or really absorb what happened to him. And it's back to the grind. And on top of that, on weekends, he was building custom furniture and selling it. Right. So he went through a lot of struggles, and it wasn't just the work side of it. It was the fact that, he was really getting it from all sides. Right? People who would say that they're there to help would just try to find ways to exploit him and our family. People would try to take things from us. Landlords always try to take advantage of us. At one point, they just kicked out all our stuff out for no reason at all, other than the fact that they just don't want tenants anymore. right? And they didn't like the fact that, I was a little boy and I was riding my bike in the driveway. And they didn't like that, right? They said, it's their driveway, stay off of it. We don't want your kids playing in our yard or playing in our driveway. And my dad's like, well, we're renting this place, right? And they said, well, tough. And they kicked all our stuff out. And they said, go live somewhere else. Obviously, it's illegal, but my dad's working all the time. What's he going to do, right? Are you really going to go and try to fight this and whatnot, right? So most time what happens to people in this situation, they just take it and they just go somewhere else, right? And they don't put up a fight, which is why to this day, a lot of landlord-tenancy disputes really grind my gears because people get exploited, right? But yeah, so anyways, he really struggled for a very, very long time. And he, yeah, really bore, he took on that whole burden and shielded away from the rest of his family, right? And he made sure, like, he would still come home and read books to me and play video games. Doesn't have to late at night, early in the morning. He would always find a way, right? And he put all that effort in. And I mean, looking back on that, I always tell my dad, like, how'd you do it? Like, that's monumental amount of effort and work ethic you need and just grit, right? Because a lot of people, when life gets to them in that way, they find it really tough to just continue on, right? And he was just like, well, it's when you want to do something, you do it. And he's like, you put your mind to it, and you work hard, and you don't need anyone else's help and support. You just need yourself, right? If you can't rely on anybody else, you can't trust them, they're taking advantage of you. At the end of the day, you can always rely on yourself. So sometimes you just gotta, pull yourself up and just do the best you can, and you'll be surprised at what you can achieve. And that was his mentality. So that's what I picked up.